Hey everybody, thanks for being here. Thanks for coming to the show, for signing on, taking a look. I am here. I'm honored to be here with Jake from Armchair Violence. Jake, thanks for being here, man. How was your day so far, my friend?
That was all right. I did a small bit of work and then headed home, and then spent way too long trying to get the webcam configured back up.
I understand that.
I'm technologically challenged.
Yeah, aren't we all? I mean, like, that's not our main, like, you know, we're martial arts people. We're not, like, that's not our the main thing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the fact that I managed to put out videos onto the internet. Like, that's an achievement for me.
Same, dude. Same, absolutely. In fact, sometimes I judge, like, how good the actual details are. Like, I'm maybe having, like, an idea of how good the details are going to be by the production quality of, like, the worse the production quality is. Like, man, these details are going to be great. Because this person doesn't know what they're doing at all with the tech part.
Now my production quality is, like, passable. Now I look okay. But if you go back to my older videos, terrible. It just looks awful.
Because, yeah, it's not your primary concern, right? You're an expert trying to, like, talk about the stuff we know about, right?
Yes, just trying to balance the lighting. It's exhausting. It took me so many tries to actually figure it out, and now I can't deviate it in any way, or it starts off crappy again, and I have to refigure it out.
Totally. So usually I start off, and by the way, if I look over here, because this is my screen, I'm looking at you. If I'm looking over here, I'm not like just doing something.
Okay.
I've been trying to ask the same question to start off, just to kind of get like a feel for everybody's personalities that I have on the show. The question is, and if you don't have an answer, that's cool, but do you have a favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and if so, who is it?
Mine is Leonardo. I saw your Icy Mike one, so I was ready.
Oh, okay. Do you have a favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
So that's a big question.
And I liked Leonardo because he was always coming up with plans. Everybody else was just like doing things. Like Mikey was just doing something dumb. Raph was just doing something angry. Donatello was just doing whatever Leonardo told him to start working on. Leonardo was the one like coming up with plans, like moving towards a goal.
Yeah. I feel that, man. Obviously, my favorite color is blue, and I'm a Leonardo also, so I'm totally with you on that.
And I also like swords pretty well.
Who doesn't like swords?
I know, like they're just cooler than so many other weapons. I'm a sucker for swords. I'm a sucker for halberds. That's everything else I can take it or leave it.
Yeah. In fact, I was having a conversation the other day about the Ninja Turtles weapons and how, like, why Splinter gave each one their particular weapon, and it really makes sense because, like, so Michelangelo's like kind of the ADD one, right? He's always all over the place. So he's given the weapon that like is most likely to injure the user if that person isn't paying attention. And and Raphael has the Sai, like, being a defensive weapon primarily. He's like the most aggressive one, so he has to learn to fight defensively. Donatello has like the least technologically complex weapon. You can't modify, like, what are you going to do? You're going to modify a piece of wood? Like, the whole point is it's simple.
Don't tempt him.
I think in some versions maybe he does that.
I'm sure. The comics have been going on for decades. I'm sure he's done ridiculous things at this point.
Absolutely. And then Leo, the sword is the only, like, kind of naturally deadly weapon of all. So he has to have the responsibility of knowing when to use the highest level of violence, like to draw that sword and decide, like, I'm going to hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Sais are also pretty deadly, but sword is definitely going to beat Sai.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can just avoid the Sai by staying away from that person.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's how you can avoid most problems, actually.
Yeah. I think that's
almost all violence can be avoided by just not being there.
Yeah. I think Miyagi said no, be there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm glad you said that. So I was just like watching some of your videos to kind of do my due diligence, and I watched you talking to Rob, who I also talked to from McDojo Life, about Miyagi and like his like how like the potential things that come up with like that whole philosophy. And,
it wouldn't turn out well in real life. It's a movie thing.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you in most of the ways that you were describing.
Yes.
But
also, obviously we took it too far because we were just making jokes at that point. But like, if there's just some random guy trying to teach you karate by cleaning his car, you're being taken advantage of 99%.
Yeah, that's true. Although, as you guys were talking about that aspect of it, about him being like a handyman and stuff, like if you think though, I think some of the undertone of the movie is that Miyagi is like obviously he's a very skilled individual, very intelligent person, and if you think about like what he actually, because he's working at that place, but he also has this like, first of all, they live in like California, so he has this whole property with like 4 really nice old cars that are like in pristine condition. So there's like something else, like there's some depth to his character where it's like, oh, he's not just like some handyman. It's like this guy has like this whole like, Zen garden in the middle of Los Angeles.
People in the comments were trying to like get on me for denigrating like the job of a handyman. I had to reply like, I'm a handyman. That's my day job.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm a handyman. Say what I want.
Yeah, exactly. That's your word.
That's my word.
So what's your like primary martial art? Are you mostly striking or like grappling and striking?
I do both now. I'm much better at grappling. I've put more hours into grappling. I can strike. Like, if you get me someone off the street, I can definitively outstrike them, but I'm not a great striker by any means. I'm a decent grappler.
Okay. So yeah. Is your background jiu-jitsu, wrestling? How'd you get into it?
Full MMA background. I started in MMA, and I've continued through MMA-related things. I just ended up putting more hours into grappling. Which is weird, because, like, everyone else I know has, like, the same origin story. And everyone else's origin story was, when I was young, I got into, like, this random martial art, which isn't functional at all, and I did that for years, and then I got really good at it, and then I tried to test it against other things, and I realized, oh my gosh, my martial art doesn't work at all. And then I found combat sports, and then I started doing those. Everyone has the exact same origin story.
Dude, same. Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, I was doing ninjutsu, and like, I was, you try and do it once or twice, and you're like, oh, this.
I'm the only one without that origin story. It's the weirdest. I feel like a pariah. It's so weird, and I took a weird advantage. Well, it was almost an advantage because when I was a kid, my mom tried to like push me into martial arts, but like she doesn't know what martial arts are good, so they were all just really crappy martial arts. And thankfully, little like 9-year-old me would look at it and go, that sucks. Actually, that's not going to work at all. Which would have been great if it had made me get into combat sports earlier, but I didn't discover MMA until I was an adult, so that didn't help.
Although, like, do you think that, because I was watching a video and someone brought up this idea of, when you're a kid and you get into stuff, it's not always clear why. Like, are you trying to, do you doing it because you like it, or because you're trying to please your parent, or trying to make somebody else happy, or something like that? And then you might fall out of it. So, like, I think we all come to it, if we end up staying with it, if you stick with it, you probably came to it at the right time,
I wish I had found it a little bit earlier. Because I just, like, no one in my family watched MMA. I had never seen MMA until I was 18. Which is weird. Yeah. I don't know how I missed it either. But, my origin story is, at my 18th birthday party, I decided, I'm an adult now. I should, like, learn to actually fight people. And then, so, like, I had that percolating in the back of my mind. And then that weekend, as my birthday weekend, we went to see the movie Here Comes the Boom with Kevin James.
Wow.
Because I liked Kevin James. I had no idea what this movie was about at all. And then during the movie, I'm watching, like, the grappling and stuff take place. I'm like, that would work. That would actually work. And I went home, immediately went to the computer, and started Googling. And I've been Googling ever since.
So did you find an MMA gym, or did you find a grappling gym first?
I found an MMA gym first, and I had so many introductions to martial arts that, like, clearly weren't going to work. I went to, like, the roughest and toughest and most violent gym I could find. I drove 45 minutes just to find the instructor that would just full on deck you and then be like, get up, and he'd do it again. Just because no matter what else, I wanted to make sure it was actually fighting and it wasn't just pretend play.
Yeah, and as we both know, that's the only way to learn how to actually fight.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't have to be as rough as it was, but it's what I wanted at the time.
Yeah, and I think we because I didn't get into it like quite that young, but I was in my combat sports like early 30s, I guess late 20s, and so when I first got into it, when you first get into it, you don't know not to go hard as fuck, so it's like you just automatically do it. And as I teach people, I'm like, oh, the younger these people are usually when they're starting, it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to like really kind of like make them understand like, yes, you can do it that way, but also you don't have to do it that way.
In my first gym, the assistant coach that would go hands-on with us more was an active fighter, but he had a terrible record. He was like 1-8 or something, and I think he only got that one as a fluke at some point. But he was still way better than all of us. Yeah,
of course.
And he's a really fun example of someone with pretty good skills, but just a garbage strategy. Because like this man could wrestle well. Like he could wrestle the crap out of people. And whenever the cage door locked, the only thing he would do is stand and bang, and he had a glass chin.
Well, yeah, that's not the way to get it done.
he fully admitted, he's like, every time that cage door shuts, the only thing my brain does is stand and bang, and it's really dumb. If I were a smarter man, I would be in the UFC, and instead, I have a garbage record.
Well, at least he's self-aware.
I guess, but also, like, fix it, maybe?
Yeah, did he say, there was just no, he just, like, he had no interest in fixing that? They didn't, like...
he wanted to stand and bang.
Okay.
And he wasn't a bad striker, but he would just stand in the pocket and trade, and his chin was always worse.
Yeah, that's not, it's also not great for your longevity, just standing and...
Not at all.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and once you start losing like 8 or 9 fights in a row via a lot of knockouts, like, maybe you should stop.
Yeah. Like, you're not even supposed to get choked out a lot of times. Like, getting concussed out is far worse. In my understanding.
Not good. Actually, are you not supposed to get choked out? Because I don't know. I mean, if you hold it for like 40 seconds, it's probably a problem. But
I'm, of course, yeah. So I honestly, I'm not a doctor. I don't know the real medical. I don't know if everyone's different, but so I've heard some people say that you should try to avoid actually going out as much, because every time you go out, it's easier to put you out the next time. I don't know if that's bullshit or not, but I mean, it's probably not great for your brain to get put out a bunch of times anyway. So I'm just gonna try to avoid that.
I know when you're getting knocked out, you've got nerves that get stretched, and they become withered and fragile over time. But with getting choked out, you're just cutting off blood flow.
Right.
So, how is that getting worse next time? Are your arteries getting smaller? I don't think so.
Well, so I'm not exactly sure the mechanics of what's happening when you get, because you're not like the mechanics of getting choked out of. I think it's more of you're restricting the blood from coming back out of the head more. So it's kind of like a backup. So you're the blood is still coming in, but it's not. It's getting. That's why you start to feel that the echoes of the underworld. When you're going out and you hear that echoing effect.
I don't think so, because the jugular vein is behind your esophagus, but the carotid arteries are right here, and the arteries are what's bringing it in.
Right.
And the veins what's taking it out. So I would think the arteries would cut off way faster than the vein.
So I did a video with Mike the other day, and we consulted our friend, who was a doctor, and he sent me a video about what's happening whenever, and I don't remember exactly what they said, but I thought it was not enough is coming. You're not getting enough refreshed blood, in your
Okay.
I don't know, but
yeah.
I could even link you the video he sent me.
It could just be shutting off both, and they're just I'm sure there's still blood in your head. It's just not moving a whole lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should just be blacking out, like a fighter pilot can black out. You just don't get enough actual oxygen to your brain.
Yeah.
I don't know what long-term damage that would cause unless you're blacked out for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and because I've definitely heard another video say it's not dangerous if you're just out for a second and just wake back up and it's fine. So I don't know, but I've heard people say both things. But yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how it would do this.
Yeah.
Unless you're as bad as using it as some police officers apparently are, and then you manage to kill people.
Yeah. That's
one of those things where a chokehold should be a great tool for restraining someone without really hurting them. Unless you're an idiot, apparently, and you find ways to screw it up.
Well, if you're just not paying attention while you're like the person's head is nowhere near your perception, and you're just talking to people, and there's a bunch of stuff going on. Like, like in fact, in my basement the other day, me and one of the other purple belts had to say like, okay, let him go. He's out now. Like we could hear him snoring. It'd be like, okay, he's out. Because if you're and this guy he was paying attention. It's just that his partner's head was like behind him, so he couldn't really see. Or hear, and there was like some music going, so he couldn't really tell what was going on. And we're like, "Oh, all right, let him go. He's dead. He's dead right now. Like, let him go."
Or if you're just choking someone out, you're like, "Oh, hello? No, I can talk. What's up?"
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Go do something else. Still choking them out.
Yeah. If you're gonna be choking someone out, just pay close attention to the choke.
Yeah, maybe a little.
Yeah, it's like driving. Like you shouldn't be driving on the phone either. Don't be choking on the phone.
Yeah. If you hear gurgling noises, great. If you stop hearing gurgling noises, pay attention.
Yeah. So
I actually have a story for that. I choked someone out one time. So this girl that I trained with, she'd been out of practice for a while because she's busy, and then she finally comes back in. She's finally getting to grapple again, and we slap bump. I pass her guard. She's still got a guillotine stuck in, so I go for Von Flu immediately because I love the Von Flu, and she's fighting it, and and I make sure I've pinched her hand down so it can't get out. And I'm sitting there like, it feels like I have it in, but like she's moving, and she has not given up. And then I started paying closer attention to like, she's moving, but not in a direction. She's just moving randomly. And then finally I just take her arm off and sit up, and she's having a full seizure. Just full foaming at the mouth seizure.
Yep.
And then I look around, and nobody else has noticed the seizure. There's 20 people just standing around in this room. Nobody's looked over. And I say, her name is Alejandra. I go, Alejandra's having a seizure. And nobody looks. And I think, I exaggerate too often, apparently. And then I just go, hey! And everyone in the room looks at me simultaneously, and I go, she's having a seizure. And then she immediately wakes up and goes, what? No, I'm not. But thankfully people saw it. And she was indeed having a seizure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just don't know it's on,
Yeah, and it was weird because she had opportunity to tap. She just did not feel herself going out.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened the other day in my basement. Like he giving. So I think it was like it's because it's like a combined pressure, right? It's not just the choke. Mm-hmm. It's the amount of energy you're giving back that is like a total pressure on the whole system. That's the choke system, right? So it's like if I'm not giving you as much and I'm relaxed, then I could probably last a lot longer because I'm not causing as much of the constriction of my own blood vessels by tensing my muscles. Versus if someone's struggling, like you said, or like in my basement, where they're really trying to fight it, it's like they're giving you most of the choke already. And so you might not have to get as much of the choke on your end.
I don't know, because like if I don't tense up in a choke, I'm going out immediately. But if I tense up, I can last in chokes for a weirdly long amount of time. I think it's more about like your head position.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of it is just like, if you're being choked, you're going to go out eventually. If you're being choked and your head's over here, you're going to go out faster. And it's just because, like, when you're at a weird angle, you're shutting things down. Right. But I don't think it's necessarily tensing, because tensing is the only way you're going to survive it. Like...
So, I guess when I say tensing, like, and you're right about the angle, like getting a good position is primary, but then once you're in the good position, if you can then relax. Does that make sense? Like if I say I have a good frame, like let's say I'm trying to have a triangle on me, and I have a good frame with my elbows like really like sinking towards the ground, creating a little bit of space here, and like I'm not giving them a lot of tension over on this side either. So I'm like just leaning into, keeping this open rather than like trying to do that. Then I'm giving them like muscular tension, and then that's creating more total pressure on where they're already choking me. Like it's hard to.
Yeah. I don't know, because like anytime I try and relax a little bit, they just sink the choke in worse. So like I've never been able to test that because I'll die.
So the way I was like, I got to this place of thinking, it was like just a good example. In fact, I think we made a video, me and Mike, about like the head and arm choke, right? So like the difference between like tensing up your own muscles here and having someone already almost have the choke versus like relaxing it and just like getting a good position and like good angles here where you can just relax up against your own body. It makes a huge difference.
Okay. Yeah, I think the difference there is like, it's not that relaxing helps, it's that you have to get to a good enough position where you can relax.
Sure.
But like, if I get to a good position and tense, I'm still not being choked out, I wouldn't think, unless I'm tensing in the world's dumbest way.
Yeah.
I'd have to like tense into my own neck. But yeah, like if they're doing like a head and arm choke or something, and I get answer the phone, then I can relax. But if I tense up, I'm still not being choked because I just got the position.
Yeah.
Unless I'm tensing into my own neck, then I'm stupid. So.
Right. Well, I'll have to come down to your direction, and we'll make a video, and then we'll like try the different.
Let's figure that out.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
I've never really tried that much. I don't get the chance to relax in chokes.
Well,
for what's being that nice.
Well, I'm more than happy to choke you nicely if that's what it takes to figure all this out.
Fair, man.
So what other YouTubers do you like to watch? Not even necessarily for martial arts, just kind of generally. Do you have people who are your favorites?
Yeah, I think so. Like in the realm of martial arts, Scala Gladiatoria is one of the ones that I have watched a lot in the past. So he made a response video to me a few months ago. That was very exciting for me.
Nice.
And then I also just like all the YouTube stuff I watch is just about violence in some way. So if you know Parun, he's a military economics person, military strategy and economics.
No.
He does hour-long PowerPoint presentations every week. Yeah. The man is a machine. But
for example, like
very,
about what?
Like a lot of defense economic stuff. Like just like the war in Ukraine, or his recent one was about Korea's war strategy and the kind of build-up they're doing and what equipment they procure for what grand strategy thing. So I'm trying to also like the U.S. Army War College and things puts out great videos because it's an academic or a 4-star general or someone that's been looking at war for 40 years will do like an hour-long talk or something. And they're great. I love information like that. I'm trying to learn more about strategy and how the military works. But unfortunately for me, the military is actually absolutely garbage about explaining how the military works.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it shouldn't, because think of how many scientists or economists or whatnot make a career out of talking to the average person, like Neil deGrasse Tyson,
right,
to drum up interest for science, and so that when you go to the voting booth, you know how important science is. And military people don't flip and do that.
I mean, it makes sense to me for several reasons. I don't know if any of them are true, but my first thoughts are one, it's how much do you want to tell people about the way that our military operates? This.
There's a ton of stuff that is public knowledge. It's just it's really dense unless you get someone knowledgeable to sort through it for you and explain it down to you.
Right.
And you would think when your budget is entirely decided by how the general public votes, you would want the general public to understand why your budget's important, but they don't.
Well, also and this is from me being sort of because I'm not a huge enthusiast about the way we handle ourselves across the world, in a political way. So it's how much attention do you want to bring to the fact that a lot of our business, the reason why our country is able to be the country that it is because of the way we operate militarily around the world. Who's making all these weapons that everyone's using? What's our biggest export? It's weapons. We're making weapons and selling them to everybody, and that's why everybody's killing each other. Because that's what we do.
That's actually part of the reason they should talk about it. Because I majored in political science in college, so the military or military strategy is my intersection of violence and politics, both of which I like, and state strategy, the intersection of that. Back in college, I was very dovish on foreign policy. And as I learned more about the military and geopolitics and international relations and whatnot, I become more hawkish. Because I'm yeah, we're not just bombing brown people across the globe. There's an actual point to this, apparently.
Right.
Yeah, and that's part of it, where, like, if you don't explain how the rules-based international order works and America's role in it, it just seems like we're going around shooting people for no reason.
So I'm not even necessarily talking about us shooting people. I'm thinking about more like for example, a lot of the rare materials that we mine, that we're able to get our hands on, like for our cell phones and stuff like that, like a lot of those things come from Africa. So it's like, you know, when we talk about things like, you know, aid money, it's like, okay, so you've got a country in Africa that has all this stuff that our businesses here want to use. And so, like, the government of that country, it's like they're run by this person. And you're like, hey, we'll help you out, you know, because there's all these people who would like to take over your country, you know, who are living down the street. So, you know, we'd like you to maybe help us out with the prices on some of these materials that you're able to give us. And it's like, okay, cool. But if you don't want to do that, we'll just go ahead and take a walk right down the street here and just give that money to this guy over here, and he's going to give us a much better price than you'd ever give us. So it's like things like that. You know, and I don't know who at the highest levels are like discussing like, oh yeah, all these deals we make about how we get all of our stuff. You know, like I feel like that's maybe a missing piece of.
I haven't even heard about any of those, but honestly, like, if you're trading like hey, we'll keep you guys from dying in exchange for a deal, that's a pretty good deal, honestly.
Yeah, but like also
not buying it and letting them die, then nobody wins.
Yeah, but we like it's fucked up that like we're always winning by being like, yeah, we have all the stuff we can, in fact we could just make it okay, but we don't. I don't know that this is that's a whole nother.
Yeah, I haven't even heard about us doing that in Africa though, because I don't know where we buy our steel from necessarily. Well, plus it's not the military buying the steel directly; it'd be the contractors.
There's an interesting channel called Tunacheki, like Nacheki. Okay. That does a lot of African news, and like there's like every other day there's like an African president like standing in front of like whatever their Congress is, or like a room full of people saying like, you know, fuck the West because this is what they're doing to us, and everyone's like, yeah, we know, and like somehow none of that like filters over into our kind of, you know, and this is not like some, you know, some super left or right thing. It's like this is from Africa YouTuber putting all these, and there's several channels like that here, and they all kind of tend to agree with each other too. So it's like hard to say like, oh, this isn't what's happening. It's like, no, that's what the people in the country are telling us are happening. Yeah,
I am weak on my African political knowledge because it just has not been like a large military hotspot for us. Like we haven't been in large conflicts there very recently, so I'm not strong on it. But at the same time, there's a lot of countries in the globe where like if you look at Russian news, it's all F the West, but it's dumb.
That's different, I think. Like we're probably not taking advantage of the Russians to the same degree as like some of these third world.
But the Russians say we are, and that's hard. We're like, I can't believe anyone at any point, and I just have to look at the facts.
No, I see.
It's not like I can believe everything the American government says either.
Right, no, but this isn't the government. I'm not saying like this is YouTubers. Yeah. Like these are like regular, you know, like several different like small, probably like our probably more my level than like your level YouTube, where it's like these people have like maybe a couple hundred followers. They're not like, you know, the government or anybody like that. But yeah, it's just that's an interesting channel though.
As a YouTuber, if there's anyone that I would trust on politics, it's not YouTubers.
That's fair. That's totally fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah.
So
and I say that, and I get a lot of my political news from YouTube. I just have to like get it from disparate sources.
Yeah.
I have to find sources that disagree with each other and listen to both of them. It's hard.
Oh yeah. Especially whenever like one or both those sources like you personally disagree with. It's like, I'm just gonna sit here and just listen to the whole video and just try to get through this.
Tough through it. Well, I figured out how to get my news because like everyone just listens to the news that is their bias.
Yeah.
But I've noticed there's certain news stories that are inherently liberal or conservative. Like, if a mass shooting happens with a legally acquired gun, that's a liberal story. If a concealed carry owner stops a mass shooting with their legally acquired gun, that's a conservative story. Kind of like certain news stories just happen to support one side or the other. So when a story, like when something happens that would support the conservative worldview, I get it. I learn about it from liberal sources. Because if there's any caveat or qualifier there, you know, if the guy that stopped that mass shooting has ever said the N-word anywhere in his life, they will find that information. And same thing with the other way.
Yep.
Like that's how you get like the details and the qualifications on them. You go to the other side's viewpoint.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good strategy too. Yeah, they're gonna find
that's my secret to news.
whatever asterisks.
And I'm a handyman, so if you remember when the Kavanaugh hearings were going on, I was in a bunch of people's houses that day. Every single person had the news on, had like the congressional testimony going.
Yeah.
But every news station, because I just saw them back to back, every news station was a completely different reality.
Yeah.
And the one guy in there that had it figured out, he was rapidly switching between Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC. Just cycling through them. And every time he changed the channel, I could tell which one it was on now from the other room listening.
Huh.
Because immediately the entire worldview was wildly different as soon as he changed the channel.
Yeah, that I mean, of course it was. Like those. Yeah.
But also the fact that he was just cycling through them, like he's the only customer I trust his opinion on today.
Yeah.
He's the only one getting all the information.
Absolutely. Now, so is he the one to trust, or do you trust the person who doesn't know anything about any of the topics at all?
See, I have talked to many people that just like haven't researched the topic and still have an opinion on it. They're parroting their opinion from somewhere every single time. No one's ever heard nothing on something.
That's fair.
They're just copy pasting an opinion, or they're taking their opinion they already had and just implanting it on there. Like if you take a very feminist, believe all women kind of person, and they've never heard about the Kavanaugh hearings, you know what their opinion is on it. Yeah, you know what they're gonna say, and same thing for a conservative, like, oh, women are exaggerating. Like, you know what their opinion is. You don't you don't have to fill them in on the details. You know what they're gonna tell you.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess maybe more like so sometimes what I'll do is I'll give someone like rather than saying like, what do you think about this thing, it's like describe in really vague terms what's going on in like the situation. It's like, so this person did this thing and this person did something like this, what do you think? And then like try to misguide them, like to take away all the indicators.
Yeah, take out relevant details.
Yeah,
so they don't notice.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll give you an answer and they're like, you're like, oh yeah, well we're actually talking about this, and they're like, well now hold on a second.
That's always fun. That's always fun for me. you get to see their thought process work, and you get to see them keep jumping to the same conclusion, and they just take more and more roundabout paths to do it, even though you keep giving them more information that contradicts it. Yeah.
Yep.
People are immovable on some of their opinions.
Absolutely.
Because like my dad was like, he was very politically far from me, so anytime something in the news would happen, he's an absolute news junkie. He would just like burst into my room and go like, can you believe like this and this happened? And then from what he was saying, I would have to try and figure out what actually happened and then try and discuss it from there, because like he would always leave out the relevant details, and I had to be like, but what did this person say in response? Hold on. That doesn't make any sense.
How'd we get here?
Yeah, it's a fun game to play. He accidentally trained me to like debate very well.
Right.
Because he would just like assail me with things where I had no background knowledge, I had nothing. I just have to but it was somehow my fault? I don't know. I just have to like defend myself all of a sudden.
I know, because I definitely have people in my life who are like that, and sometimes it'll actually be them describing a situation that they're in, and because so it's like a forest from the trees situation where I'm like, okay, so you're saying that this person did all this stuff. What did you do to what happened? Like, you can't just say like, well, this person did this today at work. Okay.
Yeah, it was like, oh, my boyfriend was screaming at me. It's like, well, what was the argument about? Like, why was he mad at you?
Well, it's like,
I cheated on him with his brother. See, that's a relevant detail, though.
Or like, my significant other got real angry when I didn't do this household chore today for no reason. It's like, okay, yeah, but how many times have they asked you to do that?
Yeah.
Or asked you to not make them ask you to do that?
Yeah. People will absolutely leave out those details. It's like a detective story, listening to your friends complain about things sometimes.
Oh yeah. Especially if they're complaining about like all these people all day. It's like, okay, yeah, but the only variable here.
On the denominator.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So to change angles.
Yeah, sorry, I dragged us into politics.
No, it's okay. No, like we're it's a very low pressure podcast. We're here to have fun. We can talk about whatever. But so being like at your, so do you train at? Do you train at Metrolina?
Yep, Metrolina Martial Arts.
Okay, cool. And I forget what's the guy's name who does the videos from there also. Ed. That's it. Yeah. So so when you're there, and I've asked this question to other people too. Do you get people coming up to you while you're trying to like get some live training in and being like either overly excited to be like about to train with you, or like really going super like too hard because they're
I wish I was that famous, dude. Nobody knows who I am. there was one guy who came in, and he was a new guy to the gym, and I felt like he was staring at me the whole class. And he came to the gym because he saw my channel. But he's the only one to do that. Like, the only notable interactions at that gym is the one guy that went there because he saw my channel. And then another guy who started going there, had never heard of me. I was training with him, we were doing stuff, and then, like, we became buds. And then one day I walked in, he's like, dude, I was watching Hard to Hurt the other day, and suddenly there you were. And I stared at him like, I know that kid. That was a really fun interaction because somehow I'd known the guy for like a couple months and had just never mentioned my YouTube channel, and then I just appeared on Hard to Hurt for him one day.
That's awesome.
that was a really fun one. But no, occasionally at like a larger event or with people that have contacts through other people I know on YouTube, they'll have seen my channel, but I've got like 18,000 subscribers right now. Nobody flipping knows who I am.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Like Belle Delphine doesn't even get recognized when she goes outside. You think I do?
That's fair enough. Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing because it's not. You don't have like a bunch of people like coming to your gym trying to like test your.
No, I mean I look forward to that. I think it would be great. Just because also, like, I haven't sold myself online as the greatest fighter in the world. I'm like some nerdy martial arts academic. If you beat me, congratulations. Like, I don't know what you proved here. Yeah. It's like there are plenty of people that can beat me, right? Like, a moose could beat you up. Does the moose know more about martial arts than you? No. I do want to make enough people angry just because, like, I like the idea of winning in competition, but I don't like the idea of training really hard for competition. So if I can just have an internet beef with like a Ninja Ron, that's what I would like. Just do like a street beefs with like my version of a Ninja Ron, or like a fight that I can't possibly lose. That'd be great. I would look forward to.
I'm sure you could definitely find some Ninja Ron out there. There's a billion Ninja Rons out there. Although they might be more wary because we all know now what happens to a Ninja Ron if
But see, that's the thing. Like, if they're wary, are they truly a Ninja Ron?
Good point.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I can find them and call them out, of course. But then that's just like bullying on my part. Like, true. I know what's gonna happen. I just have to sit here and wait until they call me out, and I'll be like, okay, that's the plan.
See, I totally agree with that because I'm only like I won't be too aggressive in comments, like, and if I am, it's only on martial arts stuff that I'm sure I know about. And so like every once in a while, someone will say some wild shit. They'll be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Something. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But so I forget the other day somebody said some wild shit, and I was like, okay, well if you're real confident about that, here's the website at the gym I go to. You just come on down, and we can spar together, and we can figure out who knows more about this. And then usually, like, I think that I usually say, like, and please feel free to check out the videos of me actually fighting on my channel, because I see that you don't have any videos at all on your channel.
And mine's sneaky because I barely have any videos of me fighting on my channel. I've got a couple of me sparring Icy Mike, but Icy Mike is just a much more technical striker than I am, and I'm not very good at striking. So, like, that's the thing. Like, you can challenge me to a fight, and I'll be the first to say, I'm not that great, but you have no idea how good I am. You're taking a gamble here, buddy. You
like
have no evidence either way.
And a smart person wouldn't take that.
Ed has actually, like, I expected hate mail for a lot of the opinions I'm saying. Ed has gotten hate mail directed at me. Because he has so many more contacts in the martial arts community, people will message him being like, hey, some guy at your gym is saying some nonsense. You gotta get him in line, dude.
Like he's your mom.
right, like he's my mom. And he responds back like, what do you flipping want me to do about this? Like, I don't care. If he has to respond back, he's like, I know you don't like the way he said it, but he is right, and you have to realize that. Yeah. So all these people are like messaging Ed, especially, I don't know if you saw my BJJ self-defense video.
I don't think I saw that one. I was actually just about to watch you the spar and icing Mike like right before because I didn't have time.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. My BJJ self-defense video, it's a fairly long video, and it's essentially saying like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu works for self-defense. But the things that are sold as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu self-defense sucks balls. It's hot garbage, and it just does not work. Like a lot of the Gracie combative stuff, a lot of Pedro Samurai stuff, like it's not good. And I posted that video, and it started doing really well for my channel at the time.
Yeah.
And then I come in for practice like the next week, and I see Ed, and he's just like, "Your freaking video, dude." Every 15 minutes, I'm getting messages like he's just being harassed. Like I heard nothing, and he's just being harassed for that.
Oh, that's awesome. You have like a shield. That's great. Yeah, you don't have to deal with any of the bullshit.
I guess. And now, but it puts Ed in a weird spot because he's not sure if he should like run interference for me. And he also like he has a certain vibe at his gym that he wants to protect, so he's like making sure people don't dojo-storm me kind of deal.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, Ed, they can freaking dojo-storm me. I don't care. Like that'd make great content. I'm gonna film it. And he's like, okay, I get that you're fine with it, but I don't want that vibe in my gym. I don't want them coming in. I'm like, all right, no, that's fair. I get that. If it's for you, go for it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, but it is weird because no one's messaging me like I'm gonna show up and beat you up. They're messaging Ed like I'm gonna show up and beat this other kid up that happens to go. They're like, I have an email. Like, it's on my channel. Don't send it to Ed, dude. What are you doing?
You heard it here first. Don't harass Ed when you're trying to talk to Jake. Ed is not Jake's secretary, everybody out there.
Yeah, he probably does feel like my secretary at this point.
But I mean, honestly, from your perspective, that's not the worst thing, right? It's like you can say whatever you want, and you have to deal with it.
Yeah, I
just have to deal with
never
it.
face any consequences. Yeah, but also like I can take hate mail because I'm used to it. Like I wouldn't be on YouTube being this like aggressive about opinions if I wasn't fully prepared for people to yell at me. Like this is my personality 24/7. You think no one's ever yelled at me before? You think no one's ever said like, well, I'm older than you, so I know better. Dude, I've been hearing that since I was like 3. I've been right every time.
See, I know there was one time, shout out to my mom, there was one time whenever at school, they told us that we did not have school the next day. They told us that directly. And so I wake up the next day, I'm like, there's no school today. Mom's like, yeah, nice try. I'm like, no, seriously, there's no school today. And she's like, no, it's not on the calendar or whatever. Like, I didn't hear anything about this. We're going to the bus stop. And like, so I'm like, I'm telling you, there's no school today. And so we walk our asses up to the bus stop, and we're standing there, and I'm just like,
how long are we gonna stand here, Mom?
Yeah, and that was the first time.
Give up?
Yeah, that was the first time I realized like sometimes adults make mistakes, and that's okay. But they make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes sometimes.
Yeah, I figured out when I was probably like 8 or 9 that I'm like, oh, a lot of adults are stupid. Yeah. That was a fun moment for me because I'm like, oh, adults can be easily outsmarted. And then my parents did not like me learning that lesson. That didn't help them raising me at all, but it helped me, I think.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a good lesson to learn young. I think. Trust yourself.
I finally told my mom a few years ago that when I was a kid, like if she grounded me, she would ground me from like the internet and video games and stuff. But I had a PSP, a PlayStation Portable, that never left my room for several years, so that my mom forgot it existed. and I had that thing hook up to the Wi-Fi. I had a second secret Facebook account with only very select friends on it, so word would never get out. And for a year or two, I actually had a spare phone with all my contacts hooked up to a plan, hidden in my room, just in case she took my phone. I told her this a few years ago, and so she's like, so none of the punishments I did ever mattered? I'm like, no, not really. I'm sorry, Mom. But they just... I went right around them.
But you did stay in your room and respect the idea of the punishment in some way.
The idea of the punishment wasn't to make me go to my room. It was to get me like off of technology, and that was not a success. I just hid the technology. I took precautions. I
guess also depends. Now I have to ask, and this is one of those situations where it's like, what did you do to get to be these things happening to you all the time? What kind of shithead things were you doing?
Arguing.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it wasn't like you were like burning down gas stations or something.
No. Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, as a kid, I would just like, I wouldn't do anything. I would just like, basically just chill, stare at a wall. I had some friends. I didn't go to parties. I didn't do any of that. But like my mom is much better now. But at the time, she had like this model of parenting in her head where parenting is enforcing rules. But if I wasn't breaking any rules, she would have to make more rules until I was breaking some of them.
I see.
And that was largely why I went around all the punishments, because sometimes I'd get in trouble and I'd be like, that's a stupid rule and I don't respect it, and therefore I won't respect the punishment for it.
I can agree with that, actually. Yeah.
And that's why I would just like plan months or years in advance to be unpunishable.
So you're Batmaning your potential punishment.
Yeah, as I should. The t-shirt's there for a reason.
Your mom didn't realize she was just like sending you to Dexter's laboratory every time she sent you to the room.
Yeah. With prep time, I cannot be grounded. Like childhood Batman.
Nice. I'm not locked in here with you.
Yeah. This PlayStation is locked in here with me.
Exactly.
Yeah. To drill home that I was like a good kid that didn't do anything bad. For my 18th birthday, my girlfriend at the time actually planned a surprise party, and she got one of like the really popular girls in my grade who I was chill with, to help plan it, and that popular girl actually got the playlist for the party. But that girl ended up not being able to come to the actual party, but we still had her playlist. And so we plugged this playlist in, and this is like a normal birthday party. Like, my family is there, like some friends are there and whatnot. And the first song comes on, we're like, this is like a little raunchy, you know? But it's the first song, we're gonna give it a chance. And then the second song comes on, we're like, this is worse. Let's take a look at this playlist. Oh, we're gonna shut this off, actually. And my best guess is what happened is, my girlfriend at the time said the word party and thought like a party with like your family and friends and whatnot. And when the popular girl heard the word party, she thought something entirely different.
Yeah. That's what I would have thought, honestly. Yeah. I can't fault her for that one. If you said like, hey, make a playlist for a party, I'd be like, I got you. People are gonna be grinding their asses. Like, yeah, of course.
But I'd never been to one of those parties ever in my life. In fact, I went to one party in college, and the entire time, all I was thinking was, wow, it's just like it is in the movie. There's red solo cups everywhere. People were standing, it looks just like the movie. That was in my mind the entire time. That was the only time I'd ever seen one of those parties in real life. I never went to a second one.
So have you been to one since then?
That kind of party? No, I have not.
Really?
Actually, I went out. I went out to like a small little concert that had that same vibe. I did that like last year with one of my old college friends.
Yeah.
And that felt weird too. That one felt like I had just been put into the beaver exhibit in the zoo, and I just had to pretend to be a beaver for the next 6 hours. Like, oh man, I guess I better watch these beavers, figure out how beavers behave real quick so I can pretend to be a beaver. Like, it felt like I was just pretending to be almost a different species.
Yeah, I know how that can feel. Sometimes you go to like a party where it's like just a vibe that you're not familiar with, and you're just like, I'm just gonna stand here and observe what these humans are doing.
Yeah.
And try to not have any of them notice that I'm feel wildly out of place.
I go to the party, I'm like, I've seen this in movies. I know how this works, I think.
Yeah.
So Hollywood didn't lie to me.
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the few things I feel like Hollywood does get pretty close, and like, especially like during the 90s with all those 90s party movies, it's like, every house party that I've been to is exactly like that, where it's like the person whose house it is just buzzing around, trying to make sure no one's breaking as many possible things as possible. It's not working. Everything's getting broken.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and there's red cups. Yeah, and people are jumping into the pool or whatever. Absolutely. Yeah.
And also, and that's one of the funny things about Hollywood is every time I see a movie fight scene, it's the least accurate thing in the entire world because people in Hollywood have no idea how to fight, but they know how that works.
Absolutely, yeah. And I can appreciate, because I went to like film school for like a year, and so like I can appreciate, and I'll watch some movie fight stuff to like compare the difference, like you just said about real fighting and movie fighting. And it's like a lot of people people who do know how to make it look good for a film, they do realize like they're also martial artists. Like Michael Jai White's a good example. It's like he trains with MMA people the highest level MMA people all the time, but he knows that like, in a movie I'm not going to throw a punch the real way. I'm going to throw it like a big, make it look great. And it's just like a different, you can't, because if you did film it the right way, it wouldn't look good.
There's so many times when I would do what would work in real fighting in movies, and it didn't work. I'm doing this, pow, right? Wow. But one thing I learned is that on film, you have to telegraph for people to know what to look for.
And you don't want to telegraph in a real fight.
Exactly. There's a big difference.
Yeah, well, I know all that stuff because like you have to slightly vary the angle for the camera, whatnot. You have to do bigger motions just so the audience can follow, because the audience isn't going to like follow these like little things. But at the same time, like it's mainly about the moves that just don't exist and don't do anything. Like the amount of ways I've seen people break arms on screen where you cannot, like that's not a thing, and their arm wouldn't break. The over the shoulder break, the classic one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, constantly like they elbow down on the arm and it just bends this way.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this, guys? Come on. Yeah, and like striking a lot, and especially any grappling moves, because the average audience member has no idea how grappling works, and movie people especially don't know how grappling works.
Yeah, and really, really, really good grappling doesn't look like much.
No, it looks dumb, to be fair.
Yeah. It's like, what are these people doing? What's happening? Oh, that person's tapping. I don't know what happened just now.
Yeah, two people just like laying on their sides, like playing footsie with each other. That's what the average person would see.
Yeah.
But I still feel like there are better ways. I'm trying to like get into fight choreography if I ever get like enough time on my plate, just because I want it to be better, and I'm sure it can be better.
Do you watch VikingSamurai at all?
I have seen VikingSamurai. Yeah.
So he's like I know he's like up like in, that's his whole thing is like in action movies and stuff like that, and I know he's like starting up a action movie company kind of thing. He's like actually going to be in movies and he's like getting all these old fighting guys to do that. So like, I mean, he's a fellow YouTuber, so you could maybe like reach out and be like, hey, because I know that like that's actually he's trying to do that right now. Because I was going to have him on the show, and he was busy shooting something. So like,
that's good.
Yeah.
Although I don't know who else he's getting for that, because my main problem with VikingSamurai is he's way too flipping nice to everyone on this show. And people on his show will just like clearly be telling outright lies. And he's like, oh, cool, that's awesome, man. Yeah, like go into more detail. I'm like, what? Stop. Challenge them at some point.
No, but see, I you're not wrong. But as a podcast interview, so I used to do a podcast for like a bunch of years, like a comic book podcast, and like have a bunch of guests on and stuff. And so I think it's another reason why, because sometimes people have the same criticism about other big podcaster hosts. Like Joe Rogan's a good example. It's like sometimes he'll have somebody on there where you're like, hey Joe, maybe you could just call him out on some bullshit right now. How about that? Or like Lex Friedman. Like the only time I've ever seen him get aggressive was with Kanye that one time, because he was like way the fuck out of line. And Lex, like myself, both Jewish.
No way.
But that's to say, like, I appreciate how David doesn't sometimes do that, because then he'll just have that. He's just like, getting them to keep talking. You know, he's not giving them resistance. He's like kind of a little bit host jujitsuing more bullshit out of that person, because it's like I don't want to have them stop and have them argue. I want that person to go like I want to hear Frank Dukes really go in hard and like all and just like see, because that allows me to know how his brain works. It's like you just ask him a question and ask him and just keep letting him talk to you.
I get what you're saying there, because like the host should just get more out of him, but I think it's the difference between like allowing them to do it and encouragement. Because VikingSamurai gives a lot of encouragement to people that do not need encouragement.
I think though sometimes it's kind of like he's like egging them on, because like if you'll watch his face closely, and I don't know if this is true, but like I feel like it's him and Jesse Enkamp. I thought they do the same thing, right? They're really good at keeping a straight face.
But this is about speed, not strength.
No.
Deception.
No. Not seeing.
And be like, oh yeah, really? Oh yeah. But somewhere inside, I feel like that it's actually they're not mocking the person, but they're like, yeah, no, that's perfect. Just keep on giving it to me.
I hope it is that. But like, I've seen a few VikingSamurai videos, and that's not what it seems like to me. It's possible though, because if I had like an off-camera conversation with VikingSamurai, and he's like, some people are idiots, but you just got to get them talking, then I would actually respect him a lot more. Like, that would actually be pretty impressive. But one of my earlier videos, Things Bad Martial Artists Say, used a lot of clips from one VikingSamurai podcast that I believe his name is Remy was on.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And Remy tried to copyright strike that video.
Really?
And it got temporarily taken down. And I wrote an appeal to YouTube, and I got it reinstated.
Oh, nice.
Because I was well within fair use, and like that was one of the big examples of like Remy is he's saying like textbook dumb things on this podcast, and VikingSamurai is just like reaffirming him. He's not like, oh really, tell us more. He's like, oh, that's totally the way it works. Aikido is awesome. And be like,
Yeah, and I think so I don't know if it actually is what it sometimes seems like, but I think that because he always refuses to give his own opinion, that tells me that it actually might be what he's doing, because like he never says like, you know, he doesn't turn around and be like, yeah, I talked to Frank Dukes and he's full of shit, like, because first of all, you're probably not going to get people back on your show that way, right? Like, yeah. And you're not going to get new guests if they watch, you know, one interview and then see you're like talking shit on your guest like immediately afterwards.
Trash it the whole time, yeah.
Yeah.
And as a tactic to continue getting guests and whatnot, like I get it. Like I don't like it a lot, but I get it and it's understandable. I just can't imagine doing it because I'm so freaking confrontational on people. Like I would never be able to do that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude. No, the same. But I think also maybe if I were going to do something like that, I would have to tell myself that like people who do know what is real and who do fight, they probably are going to tell what I'm doing. Like they can, or they at least have an idea that I do know what I'm doing. If I'm not like saying like, oh yeah, that's totally legit. If I'm just like, like,
yeah.
like if you know, you know. If you don't know, you know. So what? But like, you and I know that Frank Dukes is full of shit. You know, like maybe he does too. But if he doesn't, we do. So who cares?
See, and the problem with that is there's a lot of people that don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are just getting into martial arts, or they're on the fence, or whatnot, and that's when this kind of stuff matters. Just because, like, martial arts is almost like a religion to me, where, like, I see someone, like, I want to learn to defend myself, and they just, like, fall into Aikido for the next 15 years. It's like watching someone be used by the devil. It's terrible. Like, I feel bad for them. I want to save their soul.
I totally get that, but also, like, you can't save everybody from the devil.
I know, but I can try.
And so we'll say this, like, so, and this might sound harsh, but we are talking about like martial arts and then like violence at violence is the core of what we're talking about. So it's like if they stick with martial arts, probably they're either going to end up like me or you, where they're going to be like, okay, I did this for X number of years, and then one day I realized, oh wait, this is all bullshit, and hopefully,
Everyone's origin story.
yeah, and hopefully they'll then figure it out. But like, and honestly, I think that maybe that might be the best way to do it, because like it's like no one can tell you what the Matrix is, right? You got to see it for yourself, like
The problem is though, like a ton of people I know in combat sports and stuff have that origin story, but a lot of people don't make it to that origin story. They're just still in that suck martial art. Because like my mom started in Kung Fu, right? She never got into combat sports. She still believes in Kung Fu. Right. Like a lot of people don't make it out of there. Because it's like, it's the same with the religious argument. Like a lot of people fall into sin, and then eventually they hit rock bottom and they realize, what has my life become? And then they find Jesus. But that doesn't mean you should let people fall into sin, because a lot of them don't find Jesus. They just destroy their life.
Or
to be way too religious about it.
Or they've been addicted to something and they're trading one addiction for another addiction.
Yeah, but like there are better addictions and worse addictions. Because that's the thing. Like are there at rehab places, they don't want you to exercise in there because they don't want you to trade one addiction for the other. I'm like, sure. There's not a lot of people that exercise too much. I'm gonna be honest. Like
it's hard to do.
Yeah, like for someone to have an addiction to like clean eating and healthy living, how far do you have to take that before it's actually a problem? Like just go for it away. Let them do it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
There's also like if you can trade one addiction for another, well, that sounds like a very quick and easy way to improve your situation.
Sure, depending on if you're trading for the right addiction, cool. Yeah.
Like I get that some people can destroy their lives via too much exercise, but there's just like 5 of them.
Yeah, like
like 300,000 people that are on heroin. Switch them over.
Yeah, we're not all David Goggins. We're not all gonna like just break our own legs by running too much.
Because like you can exercise, but you know what? At a certain point, you're gonna get really tired. You don't get tired of heroin.
That's true.
Nobody gets tired of that.
That's the problem. You can't get tired of it. You just want more, probably.
That's kind of the whole problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your body does not know when to shut that down.
Yeah, I think in fact maybe that's how we need to teach people. Like it's so good.
One addiction for another, like as long as it's a way better addiction, okay.
Sure.
What's the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think martial arts are a pretty good addiction.
Yeah, just depending on the martial art.
Absolutely.
And then if it becomes a problem, you address it when it becomes a problem. Like if someone is 400 pounds and they suddenly develop anorexia, I'm gonna give it a little bit of time before I step in. I'm gonna get them down maybe 200 pounds, and then be like, now let's address the problem.
Yeah.
Before you get kind of skinny.
Yeah, it's totally fair.
Immediately, like, come on. Yeah. So like if someone gets like really into combat sports and they come from a background of a really terrible martial art and they get like super into combat sports in like a weird way, be like, we'll let them cook for a minute. Yeah, we'll give them a few months, see if it wears off. If it doesn't, then we'll be like, chill out.
Yeah.
But not bad for a start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a good session to have.
Yeah, but I do my big problem is I do view a lot of the non-functional martial arts like a competing religion, where violence is really important in my mind and soul, and I just kind of assume it's important to other people. And like, if you want to do Aikido because you just like Aikido, and it doesn't work, you just like the people at the school, and it's a fun way to get out of the house, do it, no problem, cool, awesome. But if you're really convinced this will save your life, I can't not tell something to you. I can't keep it to myself.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's why people on the internet don't like me very much. Why people through life don't like me very much sometimes.
So to speak to, I'll just, this could be an expansive topic and maybe we'll get into the weeds, but so I watched the speaking of like martial arts being like sort of a religion to you, because I feel like the same way for myself. So my interpretation of like what's actually happening at the core of any time you're in a combative situation with somebody. I watched your 3 pillars video.
Yep.
So I think of things in a similarly like basic way, but I think it has 4 elements. Initially inspired by like a Hickson seminar I watched him do, and he explained that like his 4 elements are base, connection, strategy, and breathing. And so, to me, the last 2, like strategy or strategic pressure, breathing being like controlling your internal like emotional control.
Okay.
So 2 of those things, the base and the connection, being the more physical aspects of the whole endeavor. Anytime, like say you and I are fighting, right? Anytime, like my base being how my weight is leaning one way or the other, making things easier or harder, and then my connection being I'm connected to the ground, I'm connected to myself, I'm connected to you. Like I can't exert force against you unless I have all 3 of those things, right? Like I can't, if I'm floating in space, it would be difficult for me to get a lot of punching power.
Generate power, yeah.
Right. And so it doesn't matter if I'm talking about jiu-jitsu or striking or whatever, like both of those things, those physical elements are present all the time when we're fighting. In the same way, philosophically and mentally, it's like strategy, I'm trying to disrupt what you're trying to do. At the same way, keeping control of my own emotions. So I'm trying to like over-stimulate what your brain is doing by throwing too much stuff at you, so you're on the back foot. And that allows me the space to then see the things that are available.
Yeah, and I think he's just looking at a different level of it than my 3 pillars are. Because my 3 pillars are like how the martial art would have to work, or how you actually have to train, like what you have to do to be able to fight. And the 4 pillars that you're talking about are what's actually happening within the fight. Because like in a momentary slice of a fight, his pillars matter. My 3 pillars, they either got solved way before that point, or it's way too little late to address them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that I'll talk about or go over or muse on are very much not in the moment, in the fight things. They're very like overarching strategy, how the art works, how training works things. Just a very like top-down grand strategy approach to things, because that's how my brain wants to work. My brain likes big picture stuff, and it could give a crap about details.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if that's the opposite of how my brain works. So maybe like, because I definitely can appreciate it, because I try to teach conceptually, where I'm not like, the idea of like, if they do this, then you do this. If they do this, then like that to me is not always very helpful. But like, it's like, oh yeah, but like, if you just understand that the choke here, most of the chokes work by you cut this off and you cut this off and that's it. And then it's like, oh, well, that's how they all work. So like zooming out, like you said, that also does make sense to me. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm glad to hear your. I think it's a good way of thinking about it. It's like we're not talking about different things. It's just a different kind of level of like what's happening actively versus kind of generally.
Yeah, because like when you're talking about like just a rolling session or something, you've got like tactics, the actual moves that you're using. You've got concepts, which are like fundamentally and theoretically how moves work, like how a choke fundamentally works, how an arm can fundamentally break. And then you've got like goals and strategy, which is like, maybe like if I'm really good in top mount, I want to get to top mount. That's my goal. I can maybe get a strategy to go there that doesn't include any specific moves or specific concepts. I can just be like, I'm going to take him down because he's not going to pull guard. I'm gonna pass his guard then, and I'm gonna bully my way to mount. Like that's the vaguest strategy in the world. That could be one of 20,000 moves, and that's usually where my brain is. Right. I usually start from like goal, develop a strategy that gets to that goal, and then develop moves within that strategy. And you can pick those moves using concepts. So I usually do things top down.
Yeah. I guess, and again, I think mine's the opposite, where it's like I'm more of a not a counter puncher, if you want to call it like that, for grappling, but it's like I'm trying to go in there almost like I when I'm teaching people, I say like, think about like as if you're dancing. Like when you're dancing with somebody, you're not like throwing them around the room. You're like paying close attention to the little subtleties of how their body's wanting to go, and like really paying attention. So like when they go, you go. And so if I can do that, then if I stay close, then I can just pay attention to whenever like a little window of opportunity opens to do some kind of attack or something like that. Mm-hmm. So there's no plan really.
And a lot of that is what level you're at, because like a white belt, you're going to teach them moves, right? Because like individual moves, it's all they're going to freaking comprehend. But then once you get to like purple belt and up, if you're still thinking in isolated moves, you're not going to do well. Now, now you have to be just like innovating, taking things as they go, and you now have to be thinking in concepts. Like, and that's at the point where like you really have to start being able to pull off submissions that you've never seen or heard of, because you understand how a choke works. So you're going to end up in a position where you go, I can choke them from here, even though I've never seen this configuration before. Yeah. And but what's weird to me, and I listen to a lot of people talk about it. Even at the black belt level, somehow people barely ever reach strategy. We're like, okay, yeah, you know the moves, you know the concepts. Now, step way back. None of the moves or concepts matter. Squint your eyes, blur everything together, and just get a path from A to B. And fill in details later. Yeah. And I think weird on this because I taught myself the vast majority of what I know. Because like I've only trained for a few years in like an actual school, but I started 10 years ago. Okay. So all the time in between has just been me looking crap up and just like trying to teach it to myself in my own mind. Yeah. And it's just way easier to do it strategically, and I think you can do it from a white belt level. Because like it's not complicated to say like where do you want to be in top mount? You want a rear naked choke? What do you want? Pick a goal, and then start putting in moves that form a chain to get to that goal, and see if that works. Like that's not complicated, because then it goes right into now you have to learn the individual moves. But so many people start training and learning with no sense of direction. They just get 5,000 random moves thrown at them, and then they end up just putting them together in completely random combinations until something happens to work. That's weird. Pick a goal first.
Yeah. And obviously not everybody has the ability or the resources to have like a private lesson with somebody. But I think that like being able to at least find somebody who knows what they're doing and to like guide you, especially initially, can like clean up some of that stuff where it's like, okay, how much experience do you have? Oh, you have none. Okay, well then that person can be like, okay, well this is the most basic shit that you can kind of mull through, rather than just go to a class and being like, okay, well we're in week 3 of the curriculum, so we're just gonna like last week they did the bottom part of this position. This week they're doing the top part, so I'm jumping in the middle, and I can't come every day, so I did that one, and then I missed tomorrow, and then the next day is a different thing. So it's like
and you end up like, and so many, like every place teaches this way, and you end up like, you get a really good armbar because that's what you end up drilling a lot, but you don't know any of the moves to get near an armbar, and like you get like a really good Americana from top mount, you just never learn how to take mount or how to pass guard. It ends up being weird things. And this is one of those things where I think, like, I get what you're saying about private lessons where like helping someone to a goal. But I think a coach can basically say, like, hey, listen, figure out what you want out of this, which most people know by the time they join. Like, are you doing this just for fun to get out of the house? Cool. You don't need to worry about anything. Yeah. Are you doing this for competition? Are you doing this for MMA? Are you doing this for self-defense? Like, know why you're doing it. And then step 2, pick a goal that works for what you want to do. Like, because this is where people screw up, where they go into jiu-jitsu class and they're thinking career in MMA. Maybe they're 16, maybe they're young enough to do this. They're thinking career in MMA, and then they end up being a guard puller. Well, what you're doing on the mats is not matching your actual end state goal. So, like, if you clarify what you want out of it, and then you look at the thing that you want, and you say, what works here? So for MMA, it's going to be like getting people down, dominating position for forever and a half. And for self-defense, it's going to be controlling the action, making sure you only go to the ground when you want to go to the ground and only in good positions. Like it's very much controlling that initial going to the ground and never going down on bottom. And then for like sport jiu-jitsu, it's whatever gets you the submission the fastest, buddy. Whatever's the shortest route to a submission. And if you're just having fun, whatever's fun.
Yep.
Yeah, so like you understand what you want out of it, then you pick a more specific goal, and then you only have to focus on things that get you to that goal. And then once you get really good at that goal, like if you're doing MMA, you can just say, I'm gonna get to full mount, and I'm not gonna lose full mount. You don't have to submit him from full mount, because if you spend an entire fight in full mount, buddy, you won. You won that MMA match. So you can just say, I'm just going to get to full mount, and I don't care, like, as long as I can keep it. And then once you get good at that, first of all, you've made a great freaking stride towards your actual goal. And then B, then you can pick another goal. Now you can say, okay, I'm going to get a submission from full mount. Or maybe I'm going to get to the back. Or you're going to do something or other. And, like, that's not complicated. I can explain that to someone that's brand new, but nobody does. So people end up with styles and movesets that do not match what they actually want out of what they're doing. And they end up just wasting so much time. It's terrible.
Yeah, and I think that like maybe part of the reason is like that a lot of martial arts schools it's a business, so you can't give you can't have this conversation that you and I are having right now with like every single person that walks through the door. It would be perfect if we could.
Yeah. I think you kind of could, because if you get it to be the general, like, gyms have brains, right? Gyms have collective brains, where everyone in the gym thinks a certain way. Because it's the gym culture, essentially. And if you get the gym culture to be like, hey, know what you want and make sure you're getting what you want out of this, not just doing what the instructor says. If you make sure that's the gym culture, you don't have to have a conversation with everyone that walks in the door, because someone in that room will talk to them about it.
Right.
Because that culture will eventually become self-reinforcing, where everyone that comes through the door will get baptized into that culture, and they will understand what they're supposed to do. Yeah. But a lot of gyms I've been in do the opposite of that, which is the worst. Where a lot of gyms I've been in are like, do the moves that the instructor tells you to do in the exact way that the instructor tells you to do them. Which is terrible. It's a garbage way to learn, simply because the instructor does not necessarily have your goal in mind. Where if, like, I was in a boxing class, and I wanted to improve my boxing for MMA. And if you look at MMA, the stance is different, the hands are held in a different place because you don't have the boxing gloves, and you've got to worry about takedowns and all this stuff. And, like, even the basic attacks are different. Like, you're standing at a longer range because kicks are involved. The punches are longer range. The punches are bigger and more kinetic because you've got to cover a distance quickly, and you know they can't block them with big poofy gloves. So like it's doesn't become not boxing, but it is altered. Yeah. And the head instructor freaking hated anytime I would do anything like that. Like if I would just take my hands to here, like just like a slightly more normal MMA stance, but like you still see it in boxing. Yeah. It's just not as common to be like, no, hands here. And it was a terrible environment and virtually impossible to learn.
Yeah, that's no good. Yeah. Well,
a lot of gyms will do that.
Yeah, well, for sure, and I think that sometimes it's like I can see why, because it's like especially if it's like a head instructor or one of the top instructors, it's like, you know, they've been doing it for their way for however many years, and you can't tell them shit, and that's fine. Like I've been in gyms like that before, and even if your coaches are open to like listening to different ideas, sometimes they're going to be like, yeah, I don't hate that, but I'm used to doing it this way, and it'll be difficult for me to reteach all the people, you know, especially if they have like multiple locations. Yeah. So I don't disagree with you at all, but I can see how it would be difficult to do that sometimes. Yeah,
but like you've got to let people experiment in your gym, because it's if you don't, it's just bad for the gym. Because also like this is the conversation that happens every freaking time. Like, put your hands up, and then the guy says like, Floyd Mayweather doesn't even put his hands up, and the coach goes, "You're not Floyd Mayweather." Guess what? Floyd Mayweather wasn't Floyd Mayweather either. And if he trained under you, you would have never let him put his hands down, and he would have never become Floyd Mayweather. I'm not saying that student putting his hands down is going to become Floyd Mayweather, because he's statistically not. But if he starts practicing a different style or a weird different approach, it doesn't flipping matter if that's a dead-end approach or not. The point is, he's not the only one in the world doing it. And if you've got competitors in your school, they're going to run into someone doing it. So they either get practice against that in the gym or they don't.
Yeah.
If you've got everyone training the exact same style in your gym, the moment one of your guys runs into a second style, they lose. Because they've only practiced one thing.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
Drives me nuts. I see it all the time. It's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I mean, in our school, I know that like, our head coach always say like the proof is on the mat. So it's like I think that if you are developing your own style in a good school, then and things start to work for you, then people are going to see that and they're going to be like, oh, that was cool. Like either show me that or just like, wow, man, your style's really weird. Like because like my style's a lot different than a lot of people in our gym. But people are usually complimentary. They're like, oh, wow, that was pretty wild. I never saw somebody do it that way before. And so I think, a good gym, I agree with you. A good gym's going to be like, that was cool. Show me what you did. And a shitty gym is going to be like, no, you don't do it that way. That's wrong. It's like, no, there's no wrong answers here. It worked.
Yeah. And even the proof is on the mat. Even that's hard to say because people have so much variability. Like my style, the way I grapple, I walk right into chokes all the freaking time. And the reason I walk into chokes is because I don't know why, but I'm really hard to choke. Like people will have a deep choke on me and they'll squeeze the crap out of it for like 45 seconds. I'll just wait for their arm to get tired. Like chokes are how I pass guard. I wait for them to choke me and then I get past their guard. That's not going to work for everyone because it's flipping weird. And a lot of people are really vulnerable to chokes. Yeah. But at the same time, like I'm stupid vulnerable to arm locks. I can fight off leg locks. I can just endure chokes like they're nothing for some reason. Arm locks, I have to tap immediately. That sucker's snapping. But there's another guy in my gym. Like he's double jointed. Like his arm will go at like this angle. Mm-hmm. So he'll give you an arm bar. He doesn't freaking care. You can't finish that before he gets out. There's no chance. Yeah. So just the general attributes people have, or like in the gym, I wrestle my way to top position, and I do not accept bottom position. Dude, there's 45-year-old fat guys in there. You think they're gonna do that? Nuh-uh.
Yeah, and also how many times, like if you're against somebody who's good at wrestling, it's like how many times if they put you back down there, how many times can you continue to wrestle up again, and wrestle up again, and then wrestle up again? You know, like eventually you can't do that anymore.
Right. And that's part of the difference where like, when you're in your 20s and in good shape and you want to be good at MMA, freaking do that. Great plan, right? If you're in your 40s and you're in mediocre shape and you're doing this for fun, don't do that. It's hard. Yeah, it's a really hard way to win.
Yeah, and if you're going to do it, you better do it exactly right, because if you don't do it exactly right, it's not going to work, and you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, you're going to break 18 bones. I actually broke my pinky grappling.
That's funny. Yeah. I almost broke my pinky today. I was standing up with somebody, and like we're in gi, and like they grabbed my gi sleeve and my pinky, and I was like, "Stop!"
Yeah, a close one.
Yeah.
I broke mine like doing nothing. I don't even think he was touching my hand. Like, do you remember when John Jones fought Chael Sonnen, and you got that close-up view? John Jones broke his big toe in that fight. And they found the exact moment where it happened, and his foot's just there, and his toe snaps. Like, he's just standing in one place, but he pushes off that foot because they're, like, clinched up, and his toe just goes sideways. That's pretty much what my finger did.
Okay. So was it like anchored to the mat, and then he like moved the wrong exact way?
Yeah, because like if my index finger is his big toe, he was like off the mat and went crack.
Yeah.
Like his foot moved and the toe didn't kind of deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And I think my finger just did something pretty similar, but it broke this way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I got like another week and a half in the splint.
Well, I guess got to relax on use other things for grips then, right?
Well, the problem, I can't freaking grapple with it because first of all, I can't clench. Like this sticks out and it's gonna get messed up worse. Right. But also, this splint slips right off anytime I try and do anything. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's the big problem because there's nothing anchoring it on the other side, so it will come right off.
I see. Yeah. Well,
and then I'll re-break it, and then I'll be back at square one.
Well, I wish you a safe and fast recovery on your pinky.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I got like a week and a half on the splint, and then I just have to like be gentle on it for 2 weeks, and then it should be fine.
Well, yeah, speedy recovery, sir.
Thank you. I haven't been able to grapple in weeks. It's really annoying.
Oh man, that's the worst. Like, anytime I'm out, just the fucking worst. Yeah, it drives you crazy.
I'm out of grappling and striking because I can't make a fist. I can't fit in a glove.
Yeah.
So I'm out of everything. It sucks.
Yeah. Well, you can practice like your, like solo movements, like just like perfect your, your technical get-ups and your hip heists and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's like I did that already.
No, okay. I'm gonna Miyagi you right now. Do it again.
Yeah. The thing I was actually working on was being able to. I'm gonna correct this camera. Was being able to walk on my hands.
Oh, nice.
Can't do that.
Right.
That's playing with fire. So I'm just like I'm exercising, lifting weights, I guess.
Well, you just come back to the gym like this.
Yeah, that's the goal. I'm still going to the gym just because they have weights there.
Yeah.
So I'll pop in like a couple times a week, just use their weights, talk to people, leave.
Well, and also you can still talk shit on the internet and then listen to the response you get from Ed when he has to hear about it.
People can't judge me. I got broken pinky right now, so I can't. Sorry.
Well, that's about that's a little more than an hour. I think that's about the length of the audience's kind of attention span. But I'll sign us off. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out.
Thanks for having me on.
Talk for all. It was a lot of fun. I'll if you want to come back again, I'd love to have you back again sometime. Hopefully, I can come down and maybe train with you, and maybe we can go to Metro.
If you're in the area, let me know because you can visit me and Ed at the same gym. It's very convenient.
Perfect. That'd be fun. Yeah, and well, I guess I'll just wait till your pinky's healed, and then I'll go down there. Maybe I can make a you guys.
And you can do a tour through because we're 3 hours from Seth, and we're 3 or 4 hours Sensei Seth, and 3 or 4 hours from Icy Mike. Drive right through, hit everyone.
That'd be cool. So which would it be? From north?
It'd probably be Seth. Oh, I'm gonna have to. Yeah. So it'd probably be Seth because he's in Raleigh.
Okay.
And then you come down to, I'm going to do this in the way of the camera because it's flipped for me. And then you come down to Charlotte for me and Ed because we're right outside of Charlotte. And then Icy Mike is over in Myrtle Beach.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be a fun trip. Maybe do a week or something like that.
Yeah. Because do you know Rob from Combat Self-Defense?
No, I don't.
Okay, another channel roughly my size.
Okay.
He talked with me and Ed a lot.
Okay.
And he's potentially going to come to Charlotte because he's all the way in Texas.
Okay.
Which sucks for him because all the martial arts people are on the coasts.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Eli Knight is also in Charlotte.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I haven't talked to him, but okay.
Yeah. Eli Knight and Ryan Hoover are on the other side of town.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We got a lot of people.
Okay.
Oh, Ryan Hoover. What the flip is his? I'm blanking on his channel name right now.
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We got a lot of people in Charlotte. Charlotte's a big place.
Nice. Yeah. It seems like there's a lot of martial arts down there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know why, but it worked out.
Yeah.
In fact, because I met Ed through Icy Mike at Ryan Hoover's gym.
Wow.
Yeah. And Ed said, hey, what do you go to my school or not? You can film there if you want, because I know you don't have a good background or whatnot. And then a little while later, I went to Ed's gym for an Icy Mike seminar, and I realized it was 3 minutes away from the house that we just bought.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm that's very convenient.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. So now I ripstick over to the gym.
Nice.
Because it's that close.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. I wish my gym was that close. I mean, it's pretty close, but it's not that close.
Yeah. It's nice being that close, actually.
Yeah.
Because the first gym I went to was a 45-minute drive away a lot of the time. Yeah.
No, thanks.
It was gross, but it was the only place that was rough and tumble enough that I actually trusted it.
Yeah.
But now I just rolled downhill to Ed's place, little ripstick, just roll right the door, walk back. It's nice.
Yeah, I feel like you said, there was like a little bit gross. Like I feel like there's, because of the nature of a lot of MMA fighters and the people who are willing to do MMA in the first place. It's like, if it's an MMA gym and it's not like a little bit gross, like it shouldn't be disgusting. Like it should be clean. But
yeah,
if there's, but it should be like a little bit messy though, because like at least from my experience, like a lot of the MMA dudes, they're just like, you know, they're not concerned about, you know, like picking up stuff off the ground sometimes, or you know, like
yeah. I mean, they're young guys that are only thinking about punching people in the face. You know,
exactly.
Like, dude, that's real quick. That's what gets me. Of like when someone in like the UFC or something puts out a tweet that's mildly offensive or something, and people like get on that. I'm like, this is a guy that gets hit in the head for a living. You gotta lower your expectations for their political opinions, dude. They're not here because they're like wise, centered people, all right? They're here because they're wild animals.
Yeah, I was just talking to our head coach Warren about the same concept the other day, where it's like the type of people who are willing to do certain things. Kind of, it's its own filter, right? Like yeah. you might not even have the most skilled people who are actively doing it, because those people don't want to get hit in the fucking head all the time.
Right. The really smart people in martial arts would be like, why would I get hit in the head for peanuts? Doesn't make any sense. I tell people, like, if you want to be a fighter, awesome, but understand you fundamentally have to be irrational.
Yes.
You have to be an irrational person to go into fighting, because the risk-reward matrix doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
Not worth it. And the only way it's worth it is if you have such a good freaking fallback and you just want to do it. Like, if you're just born into wealth and you just like martial arts, you freaking compete, because you're not going to be poor doing it.
Right. Or if you're trying to end up being a coach of this, then sure, like, you know, get enough experience to where you know what's going on, and then you can like be like, okay, I've done that. I can probably, you know, with extra training, I can be a pretty good coach at this, even though I might not be like the best fighter. Yeah.
You can do just enough fights so that like people trust you, and you don't have to do any more fights.
Yeah.
Because you don't actually have to fight to be a coach, but people think you do, and therefore, if you haven't fought, it's harder to get students.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, MMA especially. It's like, you know, one thing, it's like, you know, jiu-jitsu or even just like striking or whatever. It's like you don't necessarily have to fight, but like MMA, it's like the only thing, the point of this is to fight in a cage.
Yeah, but like, and what people don't realize is a lot of the best coaches historically in MMA didn't freaking compete in MMA. Like Greg Jackson barely competed at all. Firas Zahabi didn't compete. John Danaher didn't compete.
Yeah.
Those are the top guys.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like, the people that did compete are statistically worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why people get hung up on like, and it's a lot. Like anytime I mention coaching, people are like, well, if you want to coach, you got to compete. I'm like, no, you don't.
No.
You don't have to, like, and people are like, well, your fighters will want you to compete. And I'm like, maybe, but that's a different sentence.
Yeah. And you know, maybe you're not the coach for them then.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's because it's just like a trust building thing. Because, like, granted, like, the fighter's not going to walk into your door if they don't trust you. But also, like, it's hard because it's irrational to think that a coach has to have competed to be a good coach. But fighters are fundamentally irrational, so I'll give you that point. The fighters very well might be thinking that because they're fighters.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. You never know what's going on in their brains.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah. And some of them are the chillest people you've ever met, and some of them are like, do you have rabies? Are you okay?
Yeah, yeah. And the chill ones are usually the ones that stick around for longer. Like the rabid people that I've come across, it's like we don't, because I mean, at least in our gym, like you don't really want, most people don't even want to work with that person a lot of times. If you're going to continue to be like that all the time, no one wants to work with you. Like the coaches don't want to have to deal with that. And it's like the chill people are usually, and a lot of people we work with are chill. And I think for that reason, it's like, again, its own filter. You know, like if you get the idea that like none of these people want to work with you, you're probably going to stop doing it.
And that's the annoying thing is there's like an inverse correlation on average, between how good someone is to work with and how good of a fighter they are. Because like it's a big stereotype that everyone recognizes. Like women are on average more coachable than men.
100%.
But even if you control for like height, weight, and strength, the man beats the crap out of the woman on average. And part of it is because they're less coachable. They're more ego-driven. They're more aggressive. They want things their way. Those are great qualities in a fight. When you have an opponent, those are great qualities. When you have a partner, that sucks.
Yeah.
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 When you're working with someone, it's terrible. But when you're working against someone, it's awesome. So in the gym, the people that are the hardest to deal with often have the best performance in competition. And that's a really annoying trade-off. Because if you want people that are going to win competitions, your gym culture might take a little bit of a hit. And obviously there's a balance. Like, you don't have to be a rabid animal to be a great fighter. But if you're like the chillest, calmest, nicest person, like most gentle person I know, you're probably not a fighter. Let's be honest. Like the really gentle, non-aggressive people that will compromise on you that I know, none of them are the least bit interested in martial arts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the downside. Is fighters be crazy, and you gotta just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if the solution is like, because if you want both. Because the problem is if you have like a fighter gym, they scare away all the casual people. And then that's money down the drain. Because the other thing about fighters is they're poor.
They certainly are.
Yeah. So I don't know what the best solution is to potentially just like have separate classes or what?
I mean, we have a lot of separate, like we have MMA specific classes for that reason. Because it's like you want to kind of keep those people doing the thing that they're specifically wanting to do and containing their rage over here in this corner. And if people want to go in that corner and hang out with the rage monsters, that's fine. You can go over there, but like you don't have to go over there if you don't want to.
The rage monster corner should let anyone in, but it doesn't let people out.
Right.
It's one-way wall.
Right.
Yeah, because like there are gonna be people that are like just young enough and just strong enough. They're like, I want to challenge myself in the rage monster corner for the afternoon. It's good that your gym actually has MMA classes, though. A lot of gyms don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I completely understand the economics of why. It's just disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like our gym doesn't have MMA classes because not enough people would do it, which is fair. But at the same time, I don't get to practice striking to takedowns. I don't get to practice wall work. I don't get to practice ground and pound. Like, it sucks. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. If you ever want to come to Pittsburgh, like, you're welcome to crash with me. Our gym is awesome for if you want to get some good work in. Like, it's one of the best gyms in this whole region because, like, Pennsylvania is primarily like a wrestling place. Like, we're like the epicenter of wrestling.
That's true. I forgot you guys have a big wrestling culture in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
I've said this to other people on other podcasts before, but like someone just recently told me that they came from Texas, and someone said to them, "Oh, you're from Pittsburgh. That's the Dagestan of the United States."
Yeah.
Because like
it's weird because like wrestling is mainly a Midwestern thing, and Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And nothing around Pennsylvania is nearly as heavy. Like there's like a 3-state buffer between you and the next wrestling crazy people.
Yep.
Yeah, if I'm near Pittsburgh, I'll let you know. I think the closest I ever get to Pittsburgh is Swarthmore.
I don't know where that is. Where is that?
I know it's in Pennsylvania.
Oh, it is? Wow, okay.
What, Swarthmore College?
Okay, Swarthmore. Is it east?
I'm going to have to Google it. I don't flipping know. Hold on. Yeah, because like I drive straight there. I don't go anywhere else.
How long does it usually take you?
A flippin' while. Let's see. Swarthmore College. I'll just go there. Alright, so that's on like the New Jersey border.
Oh yeah, that's really far away from here. Yeah, that's the opposite
what I thought.
Side.
Now I'm seeing Pittsburgh. Yeah, dead opposite ends of the state.
Yeah.
it's in the southeast corner.
Yeah. Pennsylvania is one of those states where you're like, wait, it's how wide? Like,
Yeah.
people from Europe come over here, and I'm like, yeah, it must be nice to live in a place where you could just, like, if I drove to the other side of my state, I could speak fluently, like, 8 languages, because I would just be able to just, walk to the next country.
Dude, do you know English martial arts?
Sort of, like...
Yeah. If you've glimpsed this down, I was talking with him a while back, and it turns out Scala Gladiatoria is his brother-in-law. I'm like, is England way smaller than I thought it was? What the flip is going on? Like,
it's pretty small.
How does that happen?
Yeah, it's pretty. What I understand, it's pretty small. Like, it's like me. If I drove to Erie, it's like, oh yeah, I just drove all of most of England.
Yeah, yeah. Because all of our states are the size of a country.
Yeah.
In Europe, which is great. And North Carolina is also weird because it's smaller than Pennsylvania, but it's just freaking wide. It's not very tall, it's freaking wide.
Yeah.
So and like Charlotte is relatively in the middle of the state. It's not too far to either side. But I've got a friend who actually works near the Outer Banks, and he's not freaking close.
Yeah.
Like, he's like half a state away, and he's not freaking close.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird thing.
So if you happen to be up here, you let me know.
Yeah.
And or you want to do a trip or whatever. This is a good place to train for sure.
I definitely would. I don't think I've ever been on your end of the state, I'm afraid.
Yeah. And if you watch the end of the Icy Mike one, we talked about like it's a really famous view of Pittsburgh when you come in through the one entrance. Like there's the one road that comes in.
I remember that.
Yeah. It's definitely worth. If you can manage to go that way the first time you ever come here, make sure to do that because you get to see the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're ever down here, let 12 different people know, I guess.
All right, I certainly will.
Because we're all clustered weirdly.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of that. I could, hang out with so many more YouTubers.
It's really weird. And, like, as I got into it, I realized how close I was to people because I knew of Ryan Hoover on YouTube. And then I found out that he's in Charlotte, and it actually drove me nuts because I lived 5 to 10 minutes away from him for years.
Yeah.
And I never walked in there because the building says Krav Maga.
Oh.
Krav Maga. No other sign. So I looked at it and said, oh, that place probably isn't good. And I passed it for years. And I never realized Ryan Hoover was in there. I was still mad.
Dude, I can't blame you.
I was so mad when I found that out.
I would have done the same thing. It says Krav Maga on the side. I'm like, no thanks. I'm good on that.
Because Ryan Hoover is like, he's a self-defense heavy guy. Yeah. He's one of like the half dozen Krav Maga people in the world that actually have good gyms.
Right.
And I never realized that that's who I was passing every freaking day.
Well, that's his fault. You don't put Krav Maga on the side of your building. Everybody knows that.
You're dang son, dude. Or like put like Krav Maga and MMA, something else. Come on, because they got combat sports classes there too.
Yeah.
He's moving location. I think he's about to move locations, so hopefully he improves his sign.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Yeah. You hear that, Ryan? Just add more to the sign so we all know what's going on in there.
Yeah. It's too late now because now I live like 45 plus minutes away from him. So.
Well, maybe some others can benefit from the information.
Yeah. If I move back to that area, I'll consider it.
I think I'll sign us off here. Once again, I really appreciate you taking the time, hanging out. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully
Thanks for having me on.
Of course, yeah. Hopefully you had a fun time as well.
Yeah, hopefully you can edit down this podcast to a more manageable length.
Well, what I've been doing is I'm not sure how much of the channel you checked out, but I'll like clip pieces of them, and then like the full one will be available if somebody wants to listen to the whole thing. But yeah, I'll just take like some fun little clips and sprinkle them in here and there.
My girlfriend makes fun of me because I'll be like, oh, I have a conference call for YouTube. She's like, all right, I'll try and be quiet for 4 hours. I'll be like, it's not going to take that long. And every time she says that, it ends up being 4 hours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get it. I'm a talker too. I'll talk forever. That's why I have to tell myself. That's why at the beginning I'm like, I'm going to do an hour. And at the end, I'm going to stop at an hour.
Yeah, I'm sorry you tried to do that 20 minutes ago. I dragged you past it.
No, please, no. Yeah, it sucks so bad that we talked more.
Yeah. That's the thing, like the thing I am on my YouTube channel of like a strongly opinionated guy that never shuts up. No, that's not a character. That's who I am.
Same.
Thanks for having me on, man. If I'm ever on your side of the state, I'll let you know.
Yeah, and also tell everybody where to find, give the plugs, tell people where to find you.
Yeah. I'll put out a community post for the podcast.
Well, I mean, right now. I mean, right now. Tell the audience that's listening right now where to find you.
My channel is Armchair Violence. You can see it. Oh, wait, I'm gonna get right there. That's the spelling. Armchair Violence, right in the corner of my little screen.
Nice.
Armchair Violence. I talk about martial arts concepts, occasionally techniques, and I make fun of bad martial artists on the internet sometimes. I do what I want. I yell at a screen about martial arts is my shtick. I don't do martial arts. I just yell at people about them.
But if you want to come and test Jake's martial arts, please, he's
as long as you suck. Please be an old fat person that sucks. That's what I would prefer. I don't want a hard match.
Right.
It sounds hard.
Right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Do all the YouTube things, hit the bell, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks again to Jake for being here. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And
I'll talk to you later, dude. Let me know when the podcast drops.
Yeah, and I'll sign us off here. I'll stop the recording. We don't have to sign off the call, but I'll just stop the recording so we can But yeah, so thanks for watching. Thanks, Jake, again for being here. And everyone have a wonderful whatever it is for you wherever you are.